number of faith schools in Britain is rising. Around 7,000 publicly funded schools, 1 in 3 in fact, now has a religious affiliation. As the coalition government paves the way for more faith-based education by promoting free schools, Richard Dawkins, evolutionary biologist, says enough is enough. In this documentary, which is going to be filmed to the date already stated, Dawkins calls on us all to reconsider our consequences of faith education, which he argues bamboozles parents with indoctrinations and divides our children. The film features robust exchanges with former Secretary of State for Education Charles Clarke, head of the Church of England Education Service Reverend Janina Ainsworth, and the chair of the Association of Muslim Schools Dr. Mohammed Makadam. It also features insights from child psychologists and key players in faith education, as well as insights from both parents and pupils. Richard Dawkins also draws on his own personal history as a father, arguing that the government must stop funding new faith schools, and argues society must respect a child's right to freedom of belief. Professor Dawkins is challenging faith-based schools. There's quite a lot of them here in the UK. Now he's challenged the very organisation of the Educational Board with regards to obviously teaching a theory of evolution in the biology lessons, and not to even toy with the idea of teaching creationism or creation science or whatever aspect that these individuals want to call it. And obviously with science, evolution in particular, it's been challenged over and over and over and over again. It's tested, retested, tested again. It's tested by multiple disciplines all around the world, etc., and all to back up the theory of evolution. So how do we look at this? I think it's very good. I think it's needed. It's well needed. It's been coming a long time. And I know part of the snippets of Richard Dawkins has gone into some of his schools. It's gone into a Muslim school, and he's actually spoken to the Muslim science teacher, and about the theory of evolution and what does he teach. So Richard Dawkins challenged the Muslim teacher and said, okay, you don't believe or don't accept the facts of evolution, then where do you get your scientific information from? And he picks up the Quran and says, this is what I need to teach my class, and I get all my science from the Quran. This is how insane and ludicrous our society, our education system has become. Teaching science out of a book written thousands of years ago is just plain fucking stupid. It is a backward notion, backward old age, flipping book that is written by fucking desert dwellers, flipping fishermen, for instance, and our children are being taught, educated with a book that is clearly outdated, has lots of contradictions in, has no aspect of science whatsoever. I mean, when you open up the Bible, the first 2 pages you see is, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. No question. How did he do it? Where did he get the material from? How did the first code get built into our very genetics and all genetics for all living species, etc.? No mention of anything. It's just like a bunch of, I don't know how it happened, but it just has. And, and then people have a right to come to our educated minds and rational minds and logic minds, etc., and try to challenge everything. And yes, there are a few gaps. We acknowledge that. Science doesn't know everything, but we know quite a lot, and we know a little bit more than a book written 1400 or 2000 years ago. But anyway, I'm going to play a little snippet of Professor Dawkins on the Fox News being questioned, and as you can see, I'm going to throw him with Jesus, because you can't answer every single question that I want to know, which is bollocks. Anyway, here's this clip.
Now, when we last left you, Mr. Dawkins, you were selling your book, The God Delusion, big bestseller, based on atheism is good, and those of us who believe are kind of sappy. Now, I want to show the audience the key part of that interview, and then we'll get to your new book. Roll the tape. I'm throwing in with Jesus rather than throwing in with you guys, because you guys can't tell me how it all got here. You guys don't know.
We're working on it. Physicists are working.
When you get it, then maybe I'll listen.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, if you look at the history of science...
I've just stopped it here. I've just noticed. I don't know how much anybody else has noticed this, but it fucking has just pissed me off seeing this title. Richard Dawkins, you can quite clearly see it could say biologist, could say scientist. Oh no, it says atheist. That's really got my goat. I must admit that, because when I go to science lectures and medical lectures, etc., and when you attend these seminars, and sometimes you have your photograph and you have your name, and it also has your qualification, like BSc next to it, Bachelor of Science. It doesn't have LOS blah 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 atheist next to it. It has my qualification next to it, like many other people have their qualification. If you're an engineer, have your engineering qualification, etc. Why the heck has Fox News highlighted the fact to get their own support against atheism and to obviously target Richard Dawkins in another kind of way, some kind of forum explosion for pro-creationists or something like that? It's just fucking ludicrous. It really has got me angry. I mean, I don't know Fox News as well as most of you people out there, because most of you are from America, most of my friends and subscribers, but they are religiously bent somewhat to the evangelical young earth creation degree. Maybe not quite that bad, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong, but they do seem to be like that.
Over the centuries, the amount that's gained in knowledge each century is stupendous. In the beginning of the 21st century, we don't know everything.
All right, when you guys figure it out, then you come back here and tell me, because until that time, I'm sticking with Judeo-Christian philosophy. So now, tell me where I'm going wrong here. I believe in creative design. I believe in evolution. But I think it was overseen by a higher power because, as we just stated, and you acknowledged, you guys still haven't figured out how it all began.
There's a great deal that science hasn't worked out, and we don't know how it all began, but it's a most extraordinary piece of warped logic to say that because science can't answer a particular question, you're going to throw in your lot with Jesus, and there's no evidence that he did it either. You'll never get any evidence for any of them. Throw in your lot with science, which at least is working on the problem.
Well, here's the problem that I have with throwing him in a lot with science. Science doesn't advance the human condition in any moralistic way, and Jesus did. See, my thesis is that if everybody followed the teachings of Jesus Christ, that we'd have peace on earth, love your brother, everybody love one another, and we'd almost be an idyllic civilization. Now, am I 100% sure that Jesus is God? No, but I choose to believe that because the man was so extraordinary, and what he did in his 33 years on earth still resonates to this day. That, I think, is more powerful than your belief that, hey, someday we might figure it all out, but in the meantime, we're not going to believe in any deity.
Why would you muddle up the question of giving you a moral compass for life, which is important, with the other question, which is explaining the nature of the world, the nature of life, the nature of the universe? That's what science is about.
Okay, and I understand that, but I don't think that my belief system contradicts science. And I do believe that there is a higher power, and in my life, I can point to it, I see it. But what disturbs me about you guys, and I'm putting you into this category perhaps unjustly, is that you seem to look down on believers.
Well, there is a problem when you guys, if I could turn it back on you, try to say that because you believe what you do, because of a holy book and because of the way you've been brought up, therefore that entitles you to go into science classes and tell teachers what they can or cannot teach. You may think that God oversaw evolution, and that's a point of view that you could probably defend, but leave it out of the science class.
It's not fair to leave it out of the science class if the science class is incomplete. And you, by your own admission, say, we don't know how it all began. So if the science class is going to say evolution only, but I really don't know how it started, that gap has got to be explored.
You must see that it's quite a remarkable piece of illogic to say that because science can't fill a particular gap, therefore we have to turn to Christianity.
You don't have to turn anywhere, you just have to present it. You don't have to turn to it, you present it.
Will you listen to me and stop shouting at me?
Well, turn your earpiece down. I'm not shouting, that's the way I usually talk. Go ahead.
Okay, I know it is. I've been warned about it. Just because science has a gap in its knowledge, that does not entitle you to turn to any other particular alternative. Pick on a better science.
No, that's fascism. For you to say that you can't mention...
Fascism?
Yeah. For you to say that you cannot, in a public school classroom, a science classroom, talk about brilliant men, and I mean brilliant, smarter than you, who do believe in a higher power, who do believe that there was an overseer of the universe. If you insist you can't even mention it, that is fascism, sir.
What you called fascism was my statement that if science can't answer something, you should therefore turn to Christianity.
That turn,
if a particular scientific theory doesn't work, do some better science.
No. You present in the science classroom all the alternatives that are legitimate. Now, Adam and Eve, you don't have to do that. All right, that's for the biblical portion of a theology class. But, as I said, there are more believers than non-believers, and that should be presented. I'll give you the last word.
Science is unique in that it does base itself upon evidence rather than upon superstition, upon authority, upon holy books, or upon revelation.